This is Justin,
And this is Max.
and we are Justin and Max Games doing a quick and easy review of
Luna.
by Stefan Feld and published by TMG, Tasty Minstrel Games, and Whole Games. I think it was originally them and then they reprinted it, whatever. There's been a lot of buzz about this game lately because they're doing a deluxeified version with upgraded little people and so forth. A lot of people know this game, so I'm not going to try to explain the game to everybody. Let's talk about the good points of this game.
So, some of the good points are the art.
The art. We love the standees. I'm usually not a big fan of standees, but these are really nice. There's the moon goddess or moon priestess. This is the apostate. You want to stay away from this guy. It all has this sort of mythical, ancient world feel to it.
And then also the islands look really nice.
The islands are great, and they're two-sided because if you look at one side, they have a number and then where people are for if you're playing the first game. It gives a suggestion of where to set things up, and that makes a lot of sense too, to a certain extent.
And then also even the art, like this is the book one, and it has a library on it.
Exactly. So each island has its own theme to it, and you're going to get these tokens on them. The player pieces, I think they're really nice. You have the shrines, and you have the little characters that they're all primary colors plus white. They stand out very well on the board, and that's important to me because you have to know who's in control of islands at certain points and where you want to put people and move them around.
The idea for the points is very interesting. Moon points. Another thing I like about this game is how they do the point system with moon points. Very interesting concept.
You got your 10s, and yes, 10 is the full moon.
5, half moon.
Half moon and so forth. And I know in the deluxeified version, these are going to be metal coins. That's a really nice detail. To me, in some ways, though, there's almost too many different points. It would have been fine to me if there was 10, 3, and 1. I think the 5s, it's just too much stuff.
10s, 2s, and 5s.
10s, 2s, and 5s.
Like 3, 4 is a little less.
It's just a lot of little stuff. The game does have a decent amount of setup. And one of the parts of the setup that I'm not crazy about is the colors that are on the temple spaces themselves. They are
very similar.
Very similar, yes. They're very muted, and I understand because when you're on the temple itself with your character, reading a book or whatever, you have to be able to tell the difference between the primary colors. But these guys, I mean, these are two different colors.
And the only way you can tell is the number.
Yeah, but that's a mild criticism of the game.
I also like how the actual player board itself is a puzzle piece. How you build the board.
Yep, the whole board is built together, and it looks beautiful on the table. Let's put it together and show them what it looks like.
And how the back also
The back?
has art.
I never even noticed
The
that.
back has art.
Very cool. It's, for whatever reason, I never really even noticed that. In the game, there's only a few ways of getting points. That's different for most Feld games. Most Feld games...
Point salads.
Point salads.
Out.
All sorts of ways of getting points. This one...
2 ways. Shrines.
Shrines.
And the temple.
And the temple. And, you know, there's one other thing that people often forget. The council. Don't forget about the council. There's a nice way of getting up to 10 points, and also it breaks ties. There's no way of getting a tie in the game.
I forgot about the council, and I lost.
He forgot about the council. He did very well in every other aspect, but forgetting about the council.
And I lost.
And you lost as a result by about 10 points or so, maybe.
If I would have gotten to the end, I probably would have beat maybe one or gotten close.
The council, it's one of these things, you know, my favorite Feld game is Bora Bora. Yes. All-time #1 game. It's probably close to my #1 game all time. And in that game, yes, there's a million ways of getting points. And one of the things early in the game that you feel, oh, is that a waste, is going to the temple with your priests in Bora Bora. In this game, it seems to be the council. The council is one of these things you think, oh, in the beginning, you actually get 0 points the first couple times you go there. And it takes a lot of turns or you're spending a lot of guys to get the points from the council. Going into the temple, the timing of the temple is the important thing. It's actually one of the easiest things to do is to get one of your guys. All you need is a couple of guys on one of the islands, and then for one of the one of the places to come
It's
up.
not that hard to do, but it's very difficult to give up that token that you wanted on that island.
Yeah, because the more guys that you use, they end up in the temple, but they could boot other people out.
But then you also could have gotten that tile instead of...
You can get a couple extra points by kicking someone out in the temple, but as usual with a lot of Feld games, and this is sort of the general what I've noticed, some numbers go up, some numbers go down. In this one, if you go to the temple early by sacrificing one of your guys, by putting him there, you get a lot of points. Later on in the game, you get less points, but you have a better chance of booting people out depending where you place him.
And then speaking of booting people out, do not forget about the books.
Yes, the books, the holy books. If you could steal a book from one of the other characters, it
That's right
protects
next
you.
to you.
But you know, that's, yes, well, yeah, sometimes right next to you. All's fair in games, yes? Maybe. But to be honest, sometimes you do want to get booted because then
You get the guy back.
You get your guy back. All you
the
need to
tide
do
or the boat action.
the tide. That's the name of it. The tide action or the boat action. Otherwise, you're starting to lose guys. Then you have to spend turns to generate more guys. There is a lot to think about in the game. Just not as in Bora Bora. You're going to get 180 points, or 70 points, 120 points. There's a lot of points to get in a game like that, and there's others of his where you can really generate a lot of different ways of getting points. In this one, it's more limited, but in some ways, I like that.
It makes so that every player is doing the same thing, so there's more competition for each thing.
Absolutely. Max, why don't we show people what it looks like putting the actual islands and temple together?
All done.
And we've set it up for a 3-player game. We didn't do the numbers in the right order, it's just to get you a sense of what it is. But in a 3-player game, we wouldn't have all 4 temple spaces up. One of them would be this sort of, this cracked. And I really like that. The art is really nice. This is a very nice and thoughtful
in
thing.
2-player.
In 2-player, there would be 1 less. And then in which case, each of these areas would have 1 less disc. And as you're getting guys into the temple, early on it's 6 points, but then as it goes on, it gets down in points. And again, forget about the numbers. We got them all mixed up, but that doesn't matter.
Here it comes, ladies and gentlemen. One of the all-time greatest games ever to be seen by humanity.
Bora Bora, which also has an island theme. Let's take a look at the island in this game as a comparison.
So in Bora Bora, you also see that there's a central island and then islands going around. But in this one, it's very relevant where you are and what you need next and how to get onto central islands and how to get around and the kind of resources that it gives you. There seems to be meaning in that.
There's nothing about that in Luna, where like you can just go anywhere.
You could just basically go anywhere in Luna. You know, if you have guys here, by your next turn, they could be over there.
Instead of like move 1 space to the left, move 2 spaces in the direction.
I enjoy the idea that you could set the game up differently, and I kept on thinking that I was playing it wrong, and maybe I still am, who knows. But in this idea that they're in a certain order, the only thing that it impacts, if you want to put some of the guys out, is that all of the various standees, which are nice, you got the architect, and you got the Moon Priestess herself.
And also this guy, the apostate.
Yeah, he's going to take points away, and you're going to want to get away from this guy. Although, you can kind of use him to take points away from other people as well. Although, there's very much beauty in the art, and then the idea of putting these islands together.
It's a beautiful game when it's set up.
Oh, absolutely. It's beautiful. It really hits the mark. But I feel that the islands, you know, they have a suggested setup on the opposite side telling you...
How to start there.
Right. You can start this one. That's number 2. And that everyone moves clockwise, and I'm sure there's a meaning behind it. I just found that it never really interests me where the islands are. It's never really a thinking aspect of the game. Maybe I just don't know the strategy deep enough, but unlike some of the other games where placement is really, really relevant, this one just doesn't seem to have as much relevance to me.
But this is a review, so we gotta give it a rating.
Yes, we have to go to rating. I do like this game. It's not my favorite Feld game, but it is a beauty. It's one that I was looking for a long time, and I'm going to rate it a solid 7. What about you, Max?
I've only played it once, So I will also rate it a 7, but I feel like if I would play it more, I feel like I would maybe move up to a 7.5.
I'm kind of with you on that. I'd even give it a 7.5 as
I'd
is.
give it 7.25.
It goes by
7.25. We're gonna be right there.
Actually, 7.pi.
7.pi. Is that even a real number?
It is.
Oh, geez. I don't know about those things.
once you know the game really well, and I've played it a bunch of times now. I just taught it to Max a week ago or so. It goes by very quickly. It's not a long game, and although there's a lot to consider, that's brilliant. And the mechanisms in the game of taking guys off an island in order to get what you want on the island is great. The idea of bribing the guard here so that you can get something that's a little bit later can be really a tense moment, and capturing those things. Points are... There's no runaway leader in this game. That, I think, is a huge plus. I always feel that if I'm behind a little bit, I can catch up, or the other way around. And sometimes you never really know, because the stack of coins that you have as points, you don't get the points for the buildings that you've built, the shrines, until the end of the game. So it's really, you're never quite sure. Don't forget, though, about putting somebody in the council. That's an enormous part of the game. I do like the player aid.
Player aid.
The player aid is absolutely wonderful. Even if you know the game really well and you know all the options, it's nice to have them right in front of you. Of course, on this one I can
Do that.
expel the apostate and then get something else, or just a nice little memory
Please,
jog.
Designers, include a player aid.
Always include a player aid.
Always.
Yeah.
Don't make it too big and confusing, though.
Don't make it too big. I know there's some player aids that are really big. Kepler was a game where I thought the player aid was going to be
I'm like,
confusing.
whoa, that looks like a stock market.
But after you play it a few times, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's the easiest thing to read in the world. And that happens with these complicated games. So ultimately, you're giving it 7-point-pi.
I'm giving it 7.pi.
I'm around a 7. I'll go 7.5 with it. So let's agree to 7-point-pi, I think.
7.pi and a half.
7-point-pi and a half. That was Max and Justin's quick and easy review of...
Luna.
Ah!